Yay, we made it. We're up to day 4. I'm so excited to share what I have to share this evening. Because let's face it, anyone in our profession who earns a decent amount of money very rarely talks about how much money that they're making and very rarely shares their processes. And I actually want to let you in on the exact things that I've done to help increase my revenue by over 20K in 12 months. So I'm going to wait for a few of you to join because I know there's a few of you who are waiting there in the ether. So once you guys are on, I can see there are a few of you there. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and we will get started. So let me start at the very beginning, because before I really got things generated and got things up and going, I had to dig really deep into what it was and who it was I really wanted to serve. I was feeling really quite lost in clinic. Lost maybe isn't the word, just a bit like ho-hum. I sort of felt like clinic wasn't my place only. So it's not that I've ever given up on clinic, apart from when I had babies. I put it on pause while I had babies. But I really felt like there was something else for me. Now, the thing that was the something else and that kept coming and tapping at me was doing my yoga teacher training. Now, that's all well and good to do yoga teacher training and be a naturopath, but the whole time that I was doing that teacher training, I was like, there's got to be something in this. There's got to be something in this. The universe has put me into this position and I want to meld them together. That was my big thing. So when we set intentions at the start of that training, it was like what everyone was there for, who was going to be teaching yoga and who was going to be just doing it for personal development and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to be teaching. And that's seriously one of my areas that I just see as bonus money. Anything that I get paid for that I absolutely love is a massive bonus to me. So when the idea dropped in, I was actually in Vanuatu on retreat. And I was like, I need to put naturopathy and yoga together. And that's where naturopathic yoga came in. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, though. It was one of those things where I was like, okay, is anyone going to buy this? Is anyone going to be interested in it? It seems like a good idea in my head, but I actually needed to find some people and ask some people in the industry and in the profession, is this something that they would be interested in? So my personal thing that I like to do before I go and launch anything is I really need to validate that idea. And I suggest this to every single person who comes in and asks me questions, or anyone who asks me for advice, whether that be free advice or paid advice. They really, like, if you're going to make a 12-week program, or you're going to make a 6-week detox, or whatever it is that you have this brilliant idea about running online or running as a passive income, please get your idea validated first. And what I mean by that is you need to ask your ideal people or your ideal client or a group of people to either go through the program at a lower price and get all their feedback, or you need to, what I did was I held a workshop. So I made it a women's hormones workshop, because that's my thing, as you've heard in the other videos, women's hormone, women's health. I love talking about that stuff. And what I'd realized is when I talk about the organs and the nervous system and the vagus nerve and all these wonderful things, these women were like, oh my God, I didn't know that yoga did that for my body. No wonder I feel so good. And it's just so good to feel like you're learning stuff while you're in the middle of like trying to breathe and move into the next posture. So there was my idea validated. I was like, there is science behind what I'm saying, and I love what I'm doing. I've got to figure out how much to charge now. That was a really hard thing. So the beauty of holding that workshop, it absolutely sold out. That's another thing. I'm like, if something's meant to be, the alignment happens and it'll just fall into place. So that's how it happens in my life. I'm not saying it has to happen that way for you, but that's what's true for me. That's what I found. As soon as I get that idea validated and the people are coming, it's perfect. So that's what made me run with it. the next thing was I had to go through a couple of different videographers. So they're the people who actually film. I had to go through a couple of them, like had to learn a couple of lessons in knowing how professional to go and how to set clear boundaries around what I really needed and what I really wanted, because the finished product of a promo video that I was after was really amateur, and it was not something that I had to pay for, but it was not something I ever put out there to the people to see. Some of the still photos on that day were okay to use, but holy moly, that promo was no bueno. So anyway, that's all good. I found myself a brilliant videographer, and I still use her to this day. She comes away on my retreats with me, and she makes more promo videos there. She's brilliant, and she knows exactly what she's doing, and she doesn't cost an arm and a leg. So I'm just like, bonus, bonus, bonus. It's a win-win for everybody. So the next step was I never went into debt in any stage of any of my online courses. And the way that I don't go into debt is I build things myself. So any of the websites or the landing pages or the PayPal buttons or any of the techie stuff, I do it myself. If I don't know how to do it, I either ask somebody who I trust or I Google it. And sometimes that comes with mixed results, but usually I've got my go-to people if I don't know how to do it myself. But most of the things these days, I've been doing this for years and years now, so I know what I'm doing with the tech stuff. So it's very low cost to set that up. All it cost me was my time. And I used to just see my clients in clinic, and then any extra spare time, I would be working away on my online courses. So the online courses, I pre-sold them. So this is another validation. If somebody is going to buy your course, you have to write the darn thing, don't you? That's one of the things that I do. Like, I came out with a detox program before I did any of this, and I just sort of put it out there into the ether, like, would somebody buy this? And all of a sudden I sold 16 of them. I'm like, okay, looks like I better write that thing. And it was a 21-day detox that I ran through MailChimp, and it was pretty easy. It was probably more work than the amount that I charged, but that's okay. It was a learning experience for me. It was the first thing that I'd done to that degree, and I was really happy with the results, and so were the people as well. And then, so after that, I started just letting people know, particularly my practitioner friends who were creating their online courses. So lots of practitioners have their own niche, and the whole thing with naturopathic yoga is I can individualize it for particular themed courses or to take their clients on a particular journey. So I would jump on a video call with that practitioner. I would ask them about their branding. I would ask them about, like, do you want it shot in a white yoga studio? Do you want it shot outside? Do you want me to wear white or black or whatever? Like, I would literally go down to the minute detail of whatever they wanted. And then they would prepay at least half before I would get started. So I wouldn't have to go into debt. I would go and I'd pay my videographer for the time that it would take her, and I would at least get a little bit of payment too, and then they would probably pay that off over the next couple of months, and that would be produced for them within the month. And that happened time and time and time and time again. I must have done about a dozen of those. As well as that, I've now, those who know what naturopathic yoga is, if you don't know what it is, just Google it, it'll come up. But it's one of those things that people can now subscribe to. So a practitioner in clinic subscribes to it and then prescribes it to their clients. That model has gone berserk. It's got like over 100, getting close to 200 practitioners plus their clients utilizing that one platform. So to me, that's another validated idea. That's something that I could leverage and scale without having to spend one-on-one time, like money for hours style thing. I can be asleep some nights and get a sale through that platform. So for me, it was never just about creating the thing and then the people came. I always had to do other things. Now, this is the process. Because trust me, I'm not going to say that it's completely the easy way to make money by any means. It takes a lot of courage, and it feels quite risky at the time because you've got to really learn to get visible. And for me, it's the most visible I have ever been in my life, to be on the internet in yoga gear and then my voice being over the top of all these yoga. Like, it is literally, I used to be petrified and now I freaking love it. And it's one of the most massive growth phases that I've been through. And the beauty of that is I also received money for it, which is like such a blessing to me. So the other thing that I created, particularly for the general public, was something called Lean Queens. And it was something that literally I feel like I got a download from the universe. It was like, here's an idea, action it. And it was HIIT workouts, but yoga inspired. And I gave them some recipe booklets and email support. And literally people could just go on, buy that and start the course. And it would just be drip fed to them week by week. And it was a 4-week course. That went really well. I'd learned how to use organic reach as well as engagement posts, as well as Facebook ads by then. So that went quite well. Probably majority of my launches would be 5-figure launches. So yeah, it would at least for, like, let's say it's $150 course, I would sell at least 10 of them, and that's brilliant because you go, you know what, there's an extra $1,500 that I didn't have to see clients for this month. It's such beautiful bonus money. And it's so nice to receive that, for it to come into your account. It's the most amazing feeling. So the other thing about it is, with the visibility came the approaching people to be on their podcasts, other people approaching me to be on their podcasts. It worked both ways. Getting backlinks from other people's websites, so writing blogs for other people, being interviewed by other people on their Facebook pages, being interviewed by people over in the US who I had met through a contact, who I'd actually never met in real life before I jumped on camera and had a video call with them. Yes, I was petrified, but did I show up? Yes. This is just the thing that was right for me. And this is the thing, I'm not saying that you have to go to that extent, but if you do, the dividends will pay. It's one of those things that if you feel the fear and do it anyway, you're going to literally just be supported to just keep going. So something else where naturopathic yoga was very much leveraged was with Tammy's retreats. I was on 7 out of her 9 retreats. So I was there teaching yoga to all these naturopaths and nutritionists, and they were like, oh my gosh, I love the way that you teach yoga. Tell me more about this naturopathic yoga. So it was an easy leverage for me to be able to, for people to actually experience it. It's so different to them actually landing on a landing page and reading about it, like particularly those who are more kinesthetic and they need to feel the feels. You just can't get that just by looking at a video or just by reading words. You can get a little bit by maybe speaking on the phone, but I think that in-person experience with yoga is just so different. So they are probably the most important things, I would say, other than just being consistent. Like, I just had to learn to be consistent to show up. Like, I wrote down a list of all the different Facebook groups that I needed to join so that I could go in and play a role in those particular groups. And I learned very early on that you need to be consistently showing up in there, but not overly promoting yourself. So people get to know your name and they get to know what you do without you having to actually do anything apart from contribute to conversations. So that's one really easy way. If you are a bit of an introvert, I would suggest just start with that. Literally go into groups and find some of the things. Particularly, you can use the search function and just look for people who have posts on your niche. So literally type your niche in and see what comes up, and you can revamp one of the old threads and start commenting on it. So I know it might be nerve-wracking to begin with, but it seriously, like, it's exhilarating once you get those words out on the page and you hit the OK button, the post button. So once you've started to create that little bit of a web of connections, then that is going to help bring that value back in for you as well. So my action points for you from this particular training is you need to really get to know your ideal client. You need to also find something that you're quite passionate about. I feel like that's a really important thing, that you are allowed to be a generalist. Yes, I'm not saying no one can be a generalist, but if you can find that one person, like I've said time and time again, I feel like I'm repeating this, but it is super important. If you can find that particular niche or that type of person that you really like to work with, really hone in on messaging, talking to them, talking their language, offering solutions to their main problems, you are going to nail this. Because you take it one step further. Let's say you had menopausal women and you started creating a support group on Facebook for them, transitioning through menopause, let's just call it that. And could you imagine women who were entering into that group and they felt so super supported, and there was really basic information that you could provide that they were getting lots of value from, and you would go on and you would possibly do some sort of training a bit like this, but more so, menopause related. And then they would learn to trust you. They'd learn to trust your information, and they might ask more questions. And you will know in your heart of hearts, okay, that's a question for a consult. And you'll be able to let them know without being pushy. You just let them know, hey, this is more of a consult sort of question. If you need to, just get in touch with me and we can speak further. And because they already trust you, this is the ultimate container for them to go, yeah, I think I am going to get in contact with her because she's created so much value. She's created this space and I think she's the one to help me. And then by the time you actually converse with them, let's say you got them on a phone call or you're even emailing them, they already know where you're coming from. They already know that you're warm-hearted, that you have empathy, that you are going to help them to transition through their symptoms and through their, that sometimes difficult life stage of, the kids leaving the nest and all that sort of thing. And they're more than likely going to book in with you. That's the biggest thing. It's like, that's how you would convert somebody off social media. It's not about just promoting all your services and having the lowest prices or having the best offers or anything like that. It's about being a genuine human. It's about that genuine human connection. So if there's one thing that you can take away from this, it's to learn to be slightly uncomfortable with your visibility, because it will pay dividends massively. And if you need help with that, just ask for it. I'm more than happy to provide help for any one of you who is sitting there going, oh my God, I don't know how to get visible. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to talk about all this stuff. I'll literally freeze up on camera. All those things, we can unpack that, because there's a lot of different mindset techniques that I run through. I will literally help you unpack a whole bunch of things. Usually, the only thing that's standing in front of us is us. And the biggest limitation is our mind. So if you're somebody who is sitting there and you're thinking, I actually really need help with all this stuff, I'm going to put my details just in the comments as soon as this video is finished. I am offering strategy clarity calls. So strategic clarity, sorry, I said that wrong. Strategic clarity calls. So you're going to jump on a call with me. There's no strings attached. It's literally that heart-to-heart connection. We're going to check out where you're at and where you want to go. And that's about it. Give you some action points so you get loads of value out of it. I believe in, if you're giving your time, I want to give you value in your time. So anyone who's attending these trainings, I thank you so, so much, because it means so much that we all get to share this. I feel like there doesn't need to be competition between practitioners whatsoever. There are more than enough clients for each and every one of us, regardless of whether you have a niche or not, even though I'd really like you to have your own niche. And if you would really like some help, please ask, because I'd really love to help you. All right, everyone, that is the conclusion of day 4 training. Thank you all so much for joining me. And if you have any questions at all, or if you're watching on the replay, just leave a comment in the comment box and I will get right back to you. Thanks, everyone, and bye.